All right, class, it's me. You can tell my voice hasn't gotten any better, maybe even a little bit worse. So, I'm sitting at my kitchen table and gonna try to go through some problems. So hopefully, if anything, you can at least just see me do some work here. So lesson 6.6 is about special products. So basically, there's two special cases in today's lesson. So you've got the two boxes here, and these are very, very important for Algebra 1B. So you really got to know them. So before we fill in this box, let's go down here and let's go ahead and FOIL, just like we did yesterday. Nothing different. Let's FOIL this out. First, outer, inner, last. And notice the middle two terms come together and they cancel each other out. Okay, so this would be our answer. Let's do that one more time. So go over here and go ahead and FOIL this out. First, outer, inner, last. And what do you notice about the middle terms? That is a special property. It's called the difference of two squares. Basically, if you have the same thing in your binomials, but one is a plus and one is a minus. Now, it doesn't matter if the minus comes first or the plus comes first. But if you basically have opposites, what you'll notice is that the middle terms always cancel. So what you're really left with is just the first and the last. The middle ones cancel. So if you go over here, if you wanted, we could FOIL this thing out. We could do all of it. But since we know the middles are going to cancel, why not skip those two pieces? So we're going to do first and last. And that would be our answer. So this is called the difference of two squares. And basically what you notice is it's always the first minus the last. There's always going to be a minus when you have one plus and you have one minus. That always happens. So if you want to make a note to yourself, like, only do first and last. Middles cancel. Now, if this is something that you don't remember, you can always FOIL it out, and then you'll just notice the middles will drop. But even if we look at yesterday's lesson, notice when we did yesterday, see how these cancel? You might even noticed it in some of the ones from your homework as well. So if we go down to number 4, instead of actually going through and FOILing this, let's just do the first and the last. And that's my answer. Now notice this one gets a little more complicated because you've got the p squared and you've got the q. But if you notice, you still have a plus and you have a minus. So all you're going to do is first and last. So you just got to be careful. P squared times p squared is p to the 4th. You got to remember your rules, double base. And then we do the last. 8 and negative 8. And then q times q. So why don't you go ahead and try 6? Maybe if you need to, go ahead and pause the video here. Okay, hopefully you tried number 6. Notice this one's backwards. The variable is last, but it doesn't make any difference because they're exactly the same except for one's a plus and one's a minus. So I'm going to do first and last. And there's my answer. Okay, so This is very, very common. You see the difference of two squares a lot when you get to Algebra 1B. So this is a very common property to see. So the other one is called the perfect square trinomial. So let's go down below here and let's try this one before we write it down. Now remember, we cannot distribute the square. We actually have to write it out and then we have to FOIL it. So go ahead and FOIL. First, outer, inner, last. And then bring your middle terms together. All right, let's try one more. Let's actually go over here to number 9. Let's try number 9 so you can see the pattern before we try to jump in with these letters here, okay? So let's repeat this. Now notice this one is a subtraction where over here was a plus. As long as it's exactly the same, that's fine. So we're going to FOIL. First, outer, inner, last. Notice your middle terms come together. So, are you noticing any type of a pattern here? And again, if I grab yesterday's notes, look at this. Notice it comes down here. Okay? Notice these ones that we did yesterday. See them? See how it comes down? Okay? If we would have done this one, it would have been m squared, first, outer, inner, last. Notice? Do you kind of see the thing here? So when you're doing a perfect square, what ends up happening is the first one gets squared. So you square the first. You multiply them together and you double it. See how they're multiplied together, 3 times x, but there's 2 of them. See how it's multiplied together, but there's 2 of them. So you're going to multiply them together and double it. And then you square the last. So let's go to number 8. We're going to square the first, multiply these together, and double it. And square the last. Now normally you don't write this down. You just multiply this out and whatever it comes out to be. So it's 24st plus 9t squared. You'll get a little bit faster at this one. Now, the only thing you got to be careful of is when you do the subtraction one, your signs will be opposite of each other. So see how you have a subtraction and then you have a plus. That's really about the only thing different up here. So you square the first, you multiply them together and double it. And when you square the last, it's a negative times a negative, which makes a positive. So the only thing that's different is the plus versus the minus. So if you have a plus, it's all pluses. If you have a minus, you have the one minus. That's the only thing that's different. And they call this a perfect square trinomial. Now, you guys don't have to know the names of these right now, but when you get to Algebra 1B, it will be helpful if you know these names, okay? So let's go to the second page. And instead of foiling, let's see if we can use our shortcut, okay? So notice this is the subtraction one. So we're going to square the first. You're going to multiply them together. So that's a minus 40. But now you're going to double it. and you're going to square the last. So negative 10 times negative 10. And there's your answer. So why don't you go ahead and pause the video here and see if you can do an 11 and 12, which again, one is a plus, one is a minus. So go ahead and pause it. Okay, hopefully you paused it. You're going to square the first. You're going to multiply them together, 3mn, and you're going to double that. And you're going to square the last. All right, now this one we just got to be careful because there's a subtraction. We're going to square the first. We're going to multiply them together. So that's negative 4xy. And we're going to double it. And then we'll square the last. So negative y times negative y. And that would be your answer. Now again, if you don't like the shortcut, you could FOIL. However, it's going to take you more time because you're going to have one more step and then you'll have to combine your middle terms. So doing the shortcut will help save you some time. Now, they try to give you some story problems of where these things are used. And we do see these a lot in geometry, so it's pretty good to give them a try. So it says, write a polynomial that represents the area of the yard around the pool. So this is the pool, okay? So you're trying to find just this outer area. Well, in order to find that outer area, we're going to have to take the area of the whole thing. So length times width. So that's the area of the whole thing. And we're going to have to subtract off the pool. So we got to subtract off the area of the pool. So the pool is x plus 1 by x minus 1. So notice what they're doing is they're combining lesson 6-5, which because these are different numbers, they're combining a little bit of today, and they're throwing some subtraction in there. So they're kind of adding all three lessons. So 6-4, 6-5, and now 6-6. Since these are different numbers, I just have to FOIL it. There is no shortcut. I just got to FOIL. So first, outer, inner, last. And then I'm going to put my middle two together. Now on this one, this is our shortcut. Remember our shortcut? We only have to do the first and the last. So on this one, it's just going to be first, last. But we have a subtraction. So remember, when you have a subtraction, you're going to have to distribute that. So that's going to be a minus x squared and then plus 1. Now, if you notice, you have to combine like terms. So our x squareds, because one's negative and one's positive, are going to cancel each other out. Then we just have 8x, and 15 plus 1 is plus 16. And this would be our area. Okay? So notice, again, they're trying to combine lesson maybe like 6-5 with lesson 6-6 and lesson 6-4. So they're putting all of your lessons together in this story problem. So why don't you pause it here and go ahead and try 14. Oh, yeah, maybe I didn't mention, this is the swimming pool. So if you caught that in time, this is the area of the swimming pool. So if you need to pause it now, go ahead and pause it. All right, so the area of this large rectangle. So area of the rectangle plus, now this one's a plus, which is easier. The area of the square. So the rectangle, length times width. Now notice that's our shortcut again. It's just written backwards. Instead of the number coming second, the number's coming first. Then the area of the square. Now that one's going to be really nice. That one's actually from like lesson 6-3. So that's an easy one. If you want to do the shortcut, remember, we only have to do the first and last. So first, last. Now look at, they cancel again, don't they? Now, they don't always cancel. The x squareds don't always cancel, but many times they do. So don't be concerned if one doesn't cancel, but a lot of them will. So hopefully hopefully you can hear me enough that you can do these problems. So you've got the difference of two squares, and then you've got the perfect square trinomials when they're duplicated, okay? So give your homework a try. I'll be back on Monday, and if you have any questions, we can go over it then. Have a fantastic weekend.